Police officers got to understand that that's a false sense of security when you got that badge on. Because when you're using your power in a wrong way, you're gonna upset people. And now you're putting people's lives at risk. So you still gotta govern yourself accordingly like you're a human being, not like you in a gang. Because now, this could bring unwanted problems to people that probably don't want nothing to do with the way you're trying to intimidate people. And I'm gonna go over some of this video of how they are explaining how he wasn't in this state of mind. I think he wasn't in this good state of mind, and therefore, it's just like if you was, how they have it when if a man is find his woman in the bed and he, kills someone in the home, it's like a mental breakdown. So he gets like a lesser charge. I think something like this should be awarded for Mr. Hinton. Now, I do feel like he still should get his family should be able to see him in court. He still should be able to, you know, have his family there. I don't like the fact that these officers are sitting around mob style mentality around there. It's just this is making people more angry, in my opinion. It angers me to see that. Um, so a lot of people are saying he didn't hit the officer. He didn't get the officer that killed his son. You got to think, right? Anytime the art of war is like whenever when America bombed Japan or when they hit our Black Wall Street, it was to send a message. It wasn't necessarily aimed at a particular person. So sometimes the message being sent, and listen, it's a cold world, but sometimes you got to send messages so people can respect people. Now I think a lot of these officers will probably say, look, man, since I love my fellow officers so much, I got to make sure I conduct myself properly because it could be another officer out here that could lose his life behind something that I did. And that's going to make them understand that it's not just about them. But to all you officers that have this false sense of security because you got a badge or you feel like you can't be touched, those days is over, man. Handle people with respect, handle people with care. If you looking at people as a bad guy, like I say all the time on my channel, the prison system is a $400 billion a year business. They need people to be pipelining in there. If we had no crime, if everybody was just peaceful and good and just enjoying their family and living life, a lot of people would be losing money. And a lot of people don't want to hear that. They don't understand that. A lot of people would be losing money if it was no crime. That $400 billion that the prison is making, they could easily invest that into communities, invest that into cleaning the communities, fixing poverty, so we won't have this kind of problems in the community. But I think that they're more taking that money and just like with any business, you marketing for people to come back in. And a lot of people feel like this is hard to believe. They feel like it's just people out here that want to commit crimes and want to do harm and do things like this. But that's far from the truth. So I am standing with uh, Rodney Hinton getting a fair trial. I think that he wasn't in a state of mind. And they're going to break this down in the courtroom. And I'm going to give my commentary. Y'all check this out.
On the issue of, I believe, yes, at the prior hearing, there was a waiver of probable cause, Mr. Bennett.
Judge, I'm going to waive probable cause as we go to the effective case. I'm waiving probable cause.
Thank you so much. And
what I don't like is when he first went to this jail, they got a black person escorting him out. Which I mean, I don't mind us having our own. He probably feel more safe. He ain't knocked that black lawyer. You know, it just seems like. But look at all these police officers. Y'all need to be out doing work, bro. What are they sitting in there for? I know I said this before, man. I don't want to keep. It's like crazy, man.
Um, Is there a plea this morning?
It was clear not guilty.
Plea of not guilty? Will you
Yes.
enter a plea of not guilty? And thank you. And as to bond, the state has requested a hearing on the issue of bond or bail. You may be aware of that.
I am aware of that.
Who would like to proceed?
I'm proceeding, Your Honor.
Thank you. And would you please speak loud enough so that everyone can hear you?
Yes, Your Honor.
Louder.
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead. Is it okay if he begins?
If he has a verdict,
Okay, thank you. Clear and convincing evidence.
yes.
Thank you.
Your Honor, we will call our first witness, Officer Beebe. Where would you like Officer Beebe to stand, Your Honor?
If it's okay, you can stand right there. It's okay with him.
Thank you.
Good morning, officer.
Good morning, Judge.
So we're going to swear him in.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give before this court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
I do.
Thank you.
Officer Beebe, I need you to state your name and spell your last name for the record.
Carl Beebe, B-E-E-B-E.
And Officer, where are you currently employed?
I'm employed as a police officer, the City of Cincinnati Police Department.
Okay, what is your current assignment?
Currently assigned as a detective in the homicide unit.
Okay. In that capacity, were you called upon to investigate a matter that involves the defendant, Rodney Hinton?
I was.
Okay, is Mr. Hinton in the courtroom with us today?
He is.
Would you please? Thank you.
Thank you. And identification is one of the elements in this process. And Mr. Nelson, would you advise the court of what statute, if any, that you are operating under this morning?
Yes, Your Honor. It's 2937.222. It's hearings on bail and grounds for denying such.
Thank you.
Okay.
Proceed.
How did you become involved in the investigation involving the defendant?
We were notified of a crash that occurred at 200 West Martin Luther King Drive, where a deputy was struck by a vehicle and at the time had serious injuries.
Okay. And is that location in Hamilton County, state of Ohio, City of Cincinnati?
It is.
Okay. And so where did you begin your investigation? At what point?
Myself and several other detectives, officers, and investigators from a traffic unit went. (801) Lynn Street,
Okay.
which is where the Cincinnati Police Department's criminal investigation section is located.
Okay. And is that abbreviated CIS?
It is.
Okay. And are you aware of his reason for being at CIS?
Yes.
Okay. And why was he at CIS?
He was at CIS to meet with CPD officials to review body-worn camera footage related to an incident that had occurred the day prior. His son had been shot by a Cincinnati police officer.
Okay. And so was he there to, I guess, to meet with the chief of police?
Yes.
Okay. And so on that date, at that time, did he view a video which depicted his son being shot and dying as a result of contact with the Cincinnati police officer?
Yes.
Okay. And then after he viewed that video, and if you know, approximately what time did he view that video?
Shortly after 9:30 that morning.
Okay. And after that, do you know where he went or what he did?
Yes. So he left that the parking lot, I believe, shortly after about 10:30. Based on witness statements, he went to a couple of different locations, and then later returned. I believe about 12:40, he returned to our lot.
Okay. Were you able to speak to the people or some of the people or family members that he was with when he was at CIS?
I was.
Did they describe his emotional state at that time?
Yes. They said that he was upset, was agitated, and They were concerned enough about his emotional state that they did not want him driving, which is why the first time that he was there, when he left, he actually left with family members and not driving the car that he had driven to that location.
Okay, and do you recall it? What sort of car was he driving after he returned to pick up his car from CIS?
It was a black Ford Focus.
Okay, approximately what time did he return to CIS to pick up his vehicle?
I believe it was approximately about 12:40 p.m.
Okay, were you able to trace his progress from CIS to the point where he came into contact with Deputy Henderson?
We were.
Okay. And can you describe where he left, where he drove from CIS to the location where Deputy Henderson was struck?
Well, he after he came back to pick up the car, he actually left the parking lot, followed by some family members in another car, and then a few minutes later returned to the parking lot at CIS, drove through the parking lot, and then left the parking lot again. That was at approximately, I believe, around 12:49 that he left the lot the last time.
Okay.
And then from there,
So basically, they saying that the family didn't even want him driving because they felt like he didn't have a good mental state. So this shows that he wasn't there mentally to be able to be charged with this. It'll probably be a lesser charge, in my opinion. It should be because he was devastated what happened to his kid, and sad
proceeded
situation.
up to the Clifton neighborhood, where he was traveling northbound on Clifton Avenue, and then turned to travel eastbound on West Martin Luther King Drive.
Okay. So that's a right-hand turn from Clifton Avenue proceeding northbound on the MLK. Is that correct?
From northbound on Clifton Avenue to eastbound on Martin Luther King.
Okay. And where was Deputy Henderson working on this day?
He was working from the intersection of Clifton Avenue and Martin Luther King Drive. He was working one intersection to the east, where there's a traffic light there.
Okay.
At 200 West Martin Luther King Drive.
And what was he doing at that traffic light? What were his duties?
He was engaged in traffic control duties. There is a traffic signal box that's mounted on a metal pole at the corner of the intersection. In that box is a cord with a button on the end of the cord. That button can be used to cycle the light. There were graduations at the University of Cincinnati that day, and so there was a large volume of traffic in the area. And so he was controlling traffic and assisting pedestrians crossing the roadway.
And was he in a sheriff's deputy uniform at that time?
He was wearing a sheriff's deputy uniform, wear a hat, and a fluorescent vest, traffic vest.
Okay. And his employment history involves being a deputy with the Hamilton County Sheriff's Department. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And so he was performing duties as a police officer directing traffic on that day. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Let's see. Let's see. Were you able to retrieve any video from any stationary cameras or mobile cameras?
We were.
Okay. And please describe the cameras that you were able to get footage from.
We had one camera that was a fixed camera. That camera captured them turning from Clifton Avenue onto West Martin Luther King Drive. It was pointed in that direction at the time that incident actually occurred. It was redirected to the scene after the deputy was struck.
Mm-hmm.
We also had the opportunity to view camera from a vehicle that was in traffic on West Martin Luther King Drive, approaching the intersection where the deputy was struck, and it did capture the incident.
Okay. And were you also able to speak to people who were in cars that were within one car length away from the defendant?
Yes.
Okay. So your information is obtained from a static video camera, actually it's a moving video camera that was moved to the position after the accident, a video camera that was actually in a bus that was actually on MLK that depicts the incident, and testimony from multiple witnesses who were there. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. When you pick up the defendant turning eastbound onto MLK, please describe his path of travel.
So initially he was in one of the lanes on the right side. The traffic was slow moving, stop and go traffic. At some point, they, based on witness testimony, they moved into the left straight lane,
Mm-hmm.
and then a short time later, pulled into the sort of the painted median. It's not a raised median, but a painted median between the two. Eventually, that turns into a left turn lane to go into Burnett Woods.
All right. So at that next intersection where Officer Henderson is standing and running traffic, you can take a left to go into Burnett Woods and a right to get to UC where the graduation was happening. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And describe the defendant's path of travel after he pulls into the left turn lane, the one that is used to turn into Burnett Woods.
So based on witness statements, he pulled into that sort of that center lane, the median turns into the turn lane. Pulled into there and stopped. There were no other cars in front of him at that point, no obstructions.
Let me ask you a question. When he stopped, was he at the intersection or did he stop short of the intersection?
No, he was well short of the intersection at that point.
Okay. And was traffic moving eastbound while he was sitting there?
No, traffic was stopped.
Okay. But was there room ahead of him for him to pull up to the intersection should he have wanted to turn left?
Correct. There were no vehicles in front of him.
Okay. At that intersection, are there plastic, I guess, for lack of a better word, sticks that are actually in the ground in the pavement to ensure that people travel in the proper lane of travel?
There are further up closer to the intersection, yes.
But he was not up to that point at that time. Would that be correct?
Correct. Not at the point that he stopped.
Okay. Tell me what he did after he stopped.
So based on witness statements as well as the video, the vehicle accelerated quickly, proceeded eastbound, crossed into the oncoming lanes of traffic when there was no longer traffic to obstruct his travel. Crossed into the oncoming lanes of traffic, went to the left of those little stanchions that are in the middle of the roadway, into the oncoming lanes, through the intersection, directly at where Deputy Henderson was standing, struck Deputy Henderson and the metal utility pole on the northeast corner of the intersection.
Okay. Were there any evidence of skid marks?
No, there were no indications at any point that he tried to brake, stop, or otherwise avoid Deputy Henderson.
And is that the conclusion our accident reconstructionists have come to at this point?
At this time, yes.
Okay. And does it appear from your review of the video that he headed straight for Deputy Henderson?
Yes.
And did any of the multiple witnesses that you spoke to and the people that were in the vehicles that were surrounding him, the people that were on scene, did anyone indicate that any attempt to slow down or deviate his path straight to Deputy Henderson?
No, everybody said that he accelerated and was traveling at a high rate of speed all the way up until the time that he struck Deputy Henderson.
Okay. And when he struck Deputy Henderson, was the deputy injured?
Yes.
Okay. And what happened after he struck Deputy Henderson?
Deputy Henderson was launched several feet through the air. He came to rest in a turn lane several feet from where the collision occurred.
Okay. And what happened in the immediate aftermath after he struck Deputy Henderson? Where was the defendant? Who was on scene? What happened?
The defendant was located inside the Ford Focus. There were some other officers that arrived almost immediately, as well as
Freezing up.
Okay, as we try to get audio back in the courtroom, there some.
They attempted life-saving measures.
Oh, we got the audio back.
However,
Let's go back
he,
inside the court.
Succumbed to his injuries and was pronounced deceased a couple hours later.
And in addition to the people that you spoke to that were on the scene and the vehicles that were surrounded, did homicide speak to other witnesses as well?
Yes.
Okay. And from your investigation and from speaking to those witnesses, what is your conclusion as to what happened on that day?
We believe, based on our investigation, the witnesses that we spoke to up to this point, that Hinton left our office and was traveling and came upon Deputy Hinton and made an intentional decision to drive directly at Deputy Hinton and strike him and kill him.
And based upon that investigation, did you decide to charge the defendant with aggravated murder?
We did, yes.
I don't have any further questions, Judge.
Mr. Bennett, you may cross-examine the witness if you like.
Judge, first of all, I would like to offer on behalf of the Hinton family and myself, prayers to the Hinton family, prayers to the family of Larry Henderson, the fallen deputy. And I think the court would have a fair assembly in the courtroom today. With that, I'd like to ask you a few questions, not a lot. Okay. You said that Mr. Hinton left the police station around 12:30. CIS.
He initially left around 10:30
Came back and then left again.
and then returned a couple hours later, yes.
And you said that individuals that know were saying that he appeared to be agitated, upset, and so forth, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you don't know the source of that that agitation or that distraughtness, do you? If you know, you might not. I don't think you do, but you have to answer the question.
The source of the agitation?
Yes.
Well, I would assume it was because of the, I believe it was because of the video and reason that he was at CIS.
Do you know the mental history of Mr. Hinton?
No, I do not know detailed mental history.
Right. Do you know whether or not he's had any medically documented infirmities or conditions? Do you know that? You don't, do you?
No, I do not.
Okay. And then you also don't know his state of mind at the time of the incident near Vernon Woods and Martin Luther King Jr. Drive. You don't know that either, do you?
Based on the facts and circumstances surrounding it, I think we.
You think he
And the
intentionally did
evidence, and the evidence, yes.
it? Are you familiar with acts of someone that is not in their right mind when they commit a criminal act? If you know.
Can you clarify your question?
Are you familiar with the characteristics of acts
I'll
of?
object to that one.
You'll object to that?
question,
Okay.
yes.
You don't know whether or not he was in his right mind at the time that he encountered Deputy Henderson on Martin Luther King Drive in Vernon Woods. You don't know that, do you?
Object again, Your Honor.
Get this lawyer from, bro.
Okay, so once again, still having some audio issues in the courtroom, but
That has to be
Clyde
excluded.
Bennett on cross-examination. Let's go back inside.
At the time he committed this offense, it's stated in the statute. It's 2937.22. I believe it's C3, the character, physical, and mental condition of the defendant or the accused. That's at issue.
I believe that the witness indicated that his opinion was that the act was intentional.
Right. And in making that opinion about whether or not it's intentional, you need to know the mindset or the mens rea of the person that you're claiming intended to do this. Was he in his right mind? That's relevant with respect to your bond
I'll
determination.
sustain the objection.
From the state, Your Honor, also, just for clarification, it's not the time of the event, it's the time of the history of the accused. So the actual intent at the time of this offense has no bearing upon this court's decision.
I'm not saying that my client didn't try to intend to do this. That's not my position. One more question. You don't know his mindset at the time of the act, do you? Yes or no?
Could have did a better job.
like I stated previously, with the facts and circumstances surrounding it, and him driving up until that point, and all the circumstances that surround him leaving our office, and from talking to witnesses, he was emotionally distraught, and they were concerned about him driving, and they were concerned about his safety.
No further questions, Judge.
Mr. Bennett, thank you for your questioning. Does the state have any further witnesses?
No further witnesses, no further questions.
Please.
No.
Mr. Bennett, under the statute, the defendant has a right to speak if he wishes at this hearing.
We're not going to exercise that right, Judge. I'm going to speak on behalf of Mr. Hinton.
Thank you, but you do recognize that under the statute, that the court must allow the defendant to make a statement at this hearing if he wishes.
That is my understanding, and that's a right I don't wish to exercise on behalf of my client. I don't want him to speak.
Is that right, Mr. Hinton? All right, thank you so much. State have any further witnesses?
No further witnesses, Your Honor.
All right, shall we move to argument?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, so the position of the state is that, what's the state's position as to bond?
Judge, as the bond, and in closing, what I would say is that pursuant to 2937-222, we have shown proof that it is evident that the defendant committed the crime. We have an investigation that includes information from multiple witnesses who are within 1 car length away or less from the defendant, and 2 videos depicting his path of travel, one of which shows the collision. This evidence and testimony suggests that people were worried about him when he left the police department, having just viewed a video of the death of his son. And he was observed by witnesses and video cameras as he operated his vehicle and drove towards where the police officer was. The evidence suggests that he proceeded eastbound on MLK until Deputy Henderson came into his view. The evidence then shows that he deviated from his eastbound course, pulled into the leftmost turn lane and waited. And before he...
So they having these technical issues. So they didn't grant him no bond still on this case. And I feel that, Rodney Hinton is going to be looked at as a hero now. They're going to be looked at as somebody that didn't, use the fear of a police officer, or it's not going to be people that don't want to hold them accountable, because it's reported that they lied on the police report. They were saying he was squatting, holding a gun, reports that he didn't have the gun on him. He dropped the gun, they heard a click, and it's like these police officers will stick together and try to get their guys out of trouble instead of just being honest and being, patrolling for the community. They have this gang or mob mentality where they lie and they cover up. So I can see, if I see a video and I feel something ain't right and I feel like they're lying, I feel like they're not being truthful with me, it'll make you more angry and it'll have you more in a bad mental state, which I think that was Hinton was in. It's a sad situation, man, for both of the families, everybody involved. But this is a wake-up call that we got to make sure these officers are not thinking that they're in some type of gang or mob. We need them to understand that this is police patrolling the community. Okay? Somebody running, you should try to catch him. You got the whole... You're not going to run far. It's like... It's sad for them to think that they had to shoot right there. And I know it's a lot more white people that get killed by the police than blacks. A lot more population of them, but that don't explain why they should be having the same restraint for anybody, whatever color you is. Okay? To me, I feel like crime pays and crime is being marketed. I feel like it's making so much money that it's marketing, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. I feel like we can use money and resources to eliminate crime, but I don't think they want to do that. I think we got drugs here, we got guns here because it benefits and makes money. Okay. All right. That's just my opinion, and it's true. I mean, I got stats to back it up. And people know this also. It's a business. It's a business in making people legal slaves. So, man, condolences to the Hinton family. Condolences to everybody that's involved in this. Still feel like it's a case to where Mr. Hinton should get a sentence, or he should be getting a less charge of where he wasn't in the right mental state. Like those love cases that where they don't get the highest charges they would have gotten just because of the circumstance. That's how I feel, in my opinion. But I want to know what y'all think about this. Do you feel like it was justified? He got no bond. Feel like he needs a bond? I feel like he should get a bond. I feel like he should get a bond. I feel like he should get some counseling. He was going through a lot. But let me know what y'all think in the comment section. I'll catch y'all in the next video. Peace and love.
You are totally dependent on other people to take care of your needs because you don't have those roots sunk into the ground. To have a community, you must have three things to have a community in it. You must have a wholly independent economic structure that can provide goods, service, products, and things for your own people, and jobs and tax bases for your own people. You should at least control 4 basic things. You should be trying to control water, food, medicine, and energy to be able to survive.
Here we got Mr. Pollock. He had a cornfield. He took advantage of a free water test from us, and this is what we found in this water. We found sulfur, we found hardness, and we solved these problems with an easy fix of 2 tanks. So get your free water test today. Stay blessed. Click the link below.